This is a riviera just outside Ripon in North Yorkshire. Truly beautiful place. It's nice, it's quiet. Don't get many people down here. You get some wild swimmers, some fishermen sometimes. But in the 1940s it was a little bit busier than it is today. The Royal Corps of Engineers built some concrete ramps like this one here. There's another one just over there, opposite side of the river, all covered in trees and silt now. But these ramps were used for training Allied troops to cross rivers and experience what it'd be like to come down the ramp of a landing craft for D-Day. They would use Sherman tanks here, Crusader tanks and Churchill tanks. I've found information on Scammell recovery vehicles coming through here, so there'd probably be all sorts of vehicles. This is what one of the concrete ramps looks like today. As you can see, the ribs here, that would simulate the effect of coming down a landing craft into the river. Time's built up a lot of sediment on this ramp, so unfortunately we can't see the very top of it. If you look here, you can actually see the indentations of the damage that the tanks would have done as they entered the river over the time the river was in use. And just in the water here you've got these big oak beams, nice tight grained wood that would help absorb the impacts as the vehicles drop down into the river. Just there you can see quite a big delve there, so I'm assuming that's where the vehicle tracks would impact the river. We've been exploring around this area for quite a while with the ROV, and we've come across some concrete structures. There's one just out there, there's another one just in front of that oak beam. Don't know how well you can see that on the camera. And there's one just there, or the remains of one. It's all twisted and mangled now. Not 100% sure what these were used for, but I'm assuming, given the location of this one, that there was something to do with reinforcing the ground for when the vehicles impacted into the water. So you have two on either side concrete blocks which are connected together by 1.5 inch steel reinforcing bars. So we'll show you some footage later that we've got from the ROV and how we've excavated around one of them, and we'll even take a walk over to the other side and we'll have a look at the exit part of the tank crossing. So let's do it. Now we're on the opposite bank to where we've just been, and if you look you can still see the old curbstones all the way down the crossing, all the way down the ramp, and they disappear into the silt. You can see on this side these ridges are very, very pronounced, more so than the other side. Over there, there's another bit of curb. That's very well overgrown. You can just make it out along there. So let's have a little walk down. And this is where it disappears under the silt. So I'm guessing that the river used to be a lot wider than it is now. So if we ever want to see what's the bottom of this part of the crossing looks like, it's going to have to be excavated. in these curbstones. You can still see the casting marks from where they would have used the wood shuttering or forms to make these curbstones. A lot of effort's gone into this. It's just a shame that it's pretty much all but forgotten now. And look just through these trees, if I don't fall up, you can just see the other part of the crossing there. So the tanks had come through there, all the way across, all the way through here, up and out and up there. There used to be, just over that mound, there used to be another hard standing, but fortunately that's been dug up to reclaim farmland, which is a bit of a shame, but you can understand. Can't imagine what it would have been like over 80 years ago now. The noise, the troops, the vehicles moving about, back in a time when we were preparing to invade Europe, preparations for D-Day, training, everything. It must have been absolutely manic, but I'm guessing it would have been electric as well. The excitement, you know, of what was going to happen, troops filled with adrenaline. I just know it's not something I think I would want to do, but luckily, because of them, I don't have to.
I was sent down to a town in Yorkshire called Ripon, and the River Ur. Yeah, the River Ur runs through this, and this was all to do with the ramps, to similar the ramps from a tank landing craft. So what there was about 3 to 4 foot of water in the river. They put concrete ramps in and out of the river. It was about a river about 20 yards across. So the tank went in one end through the river and out the other end, then across the bridge and done the circuit again. Now I was sent down there, plus with 2 bodies on a recovery vehicle, on a Scammell recovery vehicle. We were down there for approximately a week. The tank was already down there. It had its trunking on the back. The trunking was for the engine trunking to stop the water from going into the engine. And we stayed down there for 7 days, and drivers and co-drivers was coming in on a daily basis, and we not manhandled, but it was just a question of what they had to do. And we were right at the end of the race course, and there was a NAFI on this race course, and the girls from the NAFI every day used to bring us a meal from the NAFI. They used to walk across from the NAFI. It's just something that stands out in my memory.
What was it? Did you do this landing exercise? Did you do it yourself?
Oh, I used to do it every day for the simple reason that the NAFI girls used to come over, and there was 1 or 2. We were about 1.5 miles, 2 miles from the town of Ripon, and we used to take the villagers used to come down, and we used to take them through when all the drivers had gone. And you had to, these concrete ramps were obviously made special, and you had to be very, very careful going in. You couldn't rush up them because otherwise you would be water in the driving compartments. And we used to take these through the river, not on a nightly exercise, but whenever we had the time to do this.
How deep was it?
About 3 to 4 feet.
And the waterproofing worked?
The only waterproofing that we had, we didn't have the normal, I mean the engine plates underneath, they weren't waterproof. It was only the chutes that came out of the back of the engine compartment. So you weren't in there all that long, it was just a matter of going into the ramp, across the riverbed, and then out at the other side.
This is the approach ramp to the crossing. The hard standing, just to the other side of that road. Just over there, is Ripon Racecourse. The vehicles would assemble over there. And they'd come down this track, all the way in, and down into the river. From the research I've done, this area in the 1950s was used for assembling some bridges, namely the Heavy Girder Bridge, Heavy Girder Bailey Bridge, and the remains of this activity is still here. As you can see, these huge bolts there are all bent over. There would have been some on the opposite side, just over here, but they're long gone. Around the crossing there's these big cast concrete squares with these, I'm presuming there could be some sort of fixing bolts in. This one certainly looks like it was a bolt. You can just see some ridges there that look like it could have had a nut on at some point. This piece of footage here was when we first started exploring around the crossing. You should see the river's quite turbid here. And this is what really started to pique our interest. All around the crossing on both sides there's quite a lot of debris. It may have been cast there over the years, it could be left over from the military's activity around there, I just don't know. But when we watched this piece of footage back originally, we noticed, as you can see there, that an eel has decided to move in, as well as some smaller residents that like to swim around it. Now this is something that we've really been puzzled by. It's two big blocks of concrete connected by these metal rods. They're about 1.5 inches across. Looks like there's been some damage to it there. It's definitely cast concrete, but we just cannot figure out 100% what it is. Holding the ROV steady to get this footage was a bit of a nightmare, shall we say. The river current was a bit stronger than normal and the ROV is getting pushed around quite a bit. You can see where some of these rods were buried by the concretion that's on it from the river. A little bit of light rusting on what was exposed, but they're still in phenomenal condition considering they've probably been down there over 80 years. I'm more than sure that the river's taken its toll on it, wearing the concrete away. But as you can see from the pipes here, it looks like the whole thing has been twisted at some point and bent. How it's ended up like that, who knows? It's all part of what we're trying to find out. But they're fairly substantial pieces of concrete. Then when you get to the top end, which is this bit, this is the upward part that faces up into the river, there's a lifting hook. You may have noticed that at the top end where the hook is, there's an exhaust of all things. Is this from the war or is it river washdown? We'll have to excavate it and find out at some point. From time to time, while we're down here poking around, investigating, seeing what's there, we get a visit from a local resident or two. This piece of concrete here appears to be more or less the same as the one that's in the river. This has a hook on it, it has these metal rods running between this first section of concrete and the back one. These ones are all bent inwards into the river. Point of impact of a tank or vehicles perhaps. Maybe that's what the other one is, but why is the other one in the middle of the river, completely out of line of where the tanks would run? You can see in this photograph the lines that the tanks would have taken. You can also see the two bits of concrete with the pipes that you've just seen, and that blue circle is where the other pieces of concrete are. It's a view looking from Hewick Bridge. You can just see the entrance on the racecourse side. What an awesome stretch of river this is. Just taking a walk down from the crossing to where I'd heard stories of there being an old military depot. I think they called it a wading camp, long since disappeared, but I have come across this, some recently broke up concrete, or relatively recently anyway. The makeup of this concrete looks very similar to the hard standing concrete at the tank crossing, so perhaps, maybe, some of this is the remains of the old camp. Some of these stones, like this here, it's a flagstone back there, they look very modern, but this, you never know, could be evidence of the old camp maybe. I did want to get to part of the river that's just over there, amongst all them trees. It looks quite promising for perhaps further evidence of the old depot, but no way I can get to it today. Very heavily overgrown, a lot of nettles. I'll just get ripped to shreds. So wait till the winter time so it's all died back, and I'll be certainly going in there and having a look, see if there's anything remaining, any posts, any foundation stones. You just don't know. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this little video. I'm by no means a documentary maker or a filmmaker, just a bit of a chubby guy with some underwater drones and some other toys. But I do think that the history that we're uncovering, not just me, many other people, especially in Ripon at the moment, it's worth remembering. Not just for the respect for the guys that fought in the war, but if we don't remember our history, I for one think we're doomed to repeat it. Anyway, that's all for now. Please like and subscribe to the video. I may try and do some more videos like this as and when I can. So thank you for watching.